Introducing the Capital One Smart Rewards MasterCard.
Dust off those PTO days and grab your finest pair of flip-flops. With the American Airlines Advantage Mile-Up Card, you earn miles that add up to getaways and 2 times miles at grocery stores.
With the new My Starbucks Rewards, we're rewarding you with more of the things that make you smile.
You've been loyal. We want to reward that. Download the McDonald's app, register, and earn points.
You tell me, what's in your wallet?
Are you an accountant with a continuing education requirement? You can earn free NASBA-approved CPE for listening to this episode. Just visit earmark.app in your web browser, take a short quiz, and get your certificate.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Fraud, a true crime podcast where there are no missing persons, just a lot of missing money. I'm Caleb Newquist. Nice to see you. How's it going? Hanging in there, I hope. I'm hanging in there. You know, could be better, could be worse. Anyway, I do not talk about my day job on here much, and that's mostly because I agreed not to. But I have been doing a lot of video work lately, and that's been fun. I feel like I've learned a lot, you know, and learning more all the time. But anyway, having said all that, this has never been a video first podcast. Greg and I did not, when we set out, that wasn't really part of the thing. In our minds, it was always audio first. But that is not all the rage as far as podcasts go. There's lots of podcasts that are streamed on YouTube, and you know, they're just, if I understand it right, YouTube is the biggest podcast platform on the internet. So anyway, you know, and that's fine, whatever. I just happen to like audio first, or yeah, audio only, whatever. If you like the video, if you like watching or listening to podcasts on YouTube, Oh My Fraud has a channel, and I actually have been posting a few more clips there recently from our conversations with John Weil and Becca Latsky. Those two, I've been posting clips from those, and yeah, you should check them out if YouTube is your thing. You can go to YouTube, search Oh My Fraud, it'll come right up. So yeah, check things out there. And also, I will mention that I'll probably be posting some clips to Instagram if you like hanging out there, as opposed to, I don't know, anywhere else. But yeah, so whatever your preferred platform, we're trying to get on there, be a little more active. And if not, whatever. You know, we want people to find the show, and people hang out in those places. So fine. TikTok, I don't know. Lots of people on TikTok. We'll see. Stay tuned. All right? Okay. Reviews. Let's do a couple reviews. Here we are. Apple Podcast. This is Prudence G, who gave the show 5 stars and wrote, "My favorite CPE podcast. This is my go-to podcast for CPE. Thank you for making continued education interesting, funny, and informative, Caleb. I've been listening for years and enjoy the banter and cursing. It's hilarious. It makes the whole process of staying compliant a bit less painful and boring. Thank you." And then I thought I was going to sing Dear Prudence to this Prudence, but I'm not going to do that. I'm sure there's copyright risks there. But anyway, thanks, Prudence G, for the review. Thanks for listening. Glad you're getting some CPE knocked out with us. You could definitely be doing, you know, courses or podcasts with no humor and a bunch of pain and a bunch of boredom. So yeah, thanks for listening. Tell your friends. Okay. Thanks to everybody who writes reviews and emails. I read all of them. Please review. Please rate the show. Apple, Spotify, Earmark, wherever. YouTube, as we just talked about. And if you go trouble to writing something, maybe I'll read it on the show, on a future show. Okay? Might is the operative word, though. Might. Okay? Also, if your firm or company or conference or event or whatever it is you got going on and you need a presentation on fraud or ethics, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. So email ohmyfraud@earmarkcpe.com to get more information on pricing and availability. All right. That's enough business. Time for some fraud. Okay, before we get into the cases, I'm bringing on my producer, Zach Frank, to discuss this topic a bit. Welcome, Zach.
How's it going, everyone?
Okay. So this is an episode about rewards, points, loyalty points. Is that a thing that you've ever been into in your life?
Into is definitely a stretch, but of course, I, like everyone else, have had multiple companies, multiple establishments give me them. So, my email is filled with them.
Yeah. Like, do you like fly a particular airline, for example? Like when you travel, do you try to stick to one airline or anything?
I do try to stick to Delta.
Okay. Yeah, Delta's a big one. Greg Kite was a Delta guy. Yeah.
I do not fly enough for it to really help me as much. My brother flies all the time. He's a touring musician, and he is also a Delta flyer and takes very much advantage of all the points that he gets from that.
Yeah. Flies for free sometimes.
Yes. Upgrades,
Upgrades. Nice. Yeah. My wife traveled not a lot for work, but frequently, like 20% of the time for a while at her previous job. And we were Southwest. My wife loves Southwest. And so she's kind of a loyalty hound like that. I don't know. There's certain things like she likes Southwest. She likes Nordstrom. She likes Costco. I don't know. And so, but Southwest is one of them. But what else? What about credit cards? Do you have a favorite credit card?
I actually have been using a lot my Prime credit card, getting some, because I order enough from Amazon that I'm getting enough back. I think you get 5% back every time you use it. So
okay. Yeah.
I order a lot from Amazon, get 5% back on everything from that. As a point. That's a nice one. Yeah.
I think if I had a favorite, like we have a Costco one and it sucks, to be honest. Sorry, Costco. It's just like the cash back, the rewards back isn't that good. I think the best one we have is like a Capital One Venture, and that's pretty good. It's like, I don't know, two points for every dollar purchased, and like there's no limits on anything. But yeah, I don't know. Like I know people who buy everything on credit cards and like pay it, then just try to pay off the balance every month, and so they just rack up these points.
Yep.
And then I'm trying to think of what's the other weird thing that people do that I've heard about. Oh, have you ever heard of these stories where people like, they'll use like point systems, they'll use reward systems, like from a credit card, like a cashback, especially the cashback ones. The cashback ones, they use those, and people, they've closed all the loopholes, or they've closed a lot of them, where you use the cash back to buy like gift cards and shit.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And they basically rack up points buying gift cards, and then they use the gift card, and it's not quite money laundering because
it's legal money laundering.
It's legal money laundering. It's pretty wild how and I think I mostly know about it because there's like tax consequences where there's been like people have gotten dragged into tax court because like, well, this is you're somehow earning money on this cash back stuff, and they technically weren't. And like, I don't know, I don't have any solid examples, but
I know
that's
there's
the other thing that's pretty funny.
There's whole industries with like the experts who will get you the best discount and the best like deals or the best points on this. Like that's whole industries of that.
Yes. Yeah. I'm gonna mention it in one of our stories. So anyway, well, we're gonna let Zach go, and we'll get into the episode, which has, on today's episode, we have a number of different short cases on reward and loyalty frauds. So let's get into them. Story number 1, frequent frauder miles. When did frequent flyer miles become a thing? Accounts kind of differ based on the research I did. For example, United Airlines started tracking its customers in the 1950s, but didn't formalize a frequent flyer program until 1972, when it was created with help from Western Direct Marketing. This is according to a Wikipedia page on frequent flyer programs. And apparently, this United program, it gave its frequent flyers plaques and promotion materials, which I think is corporate speak for swag. And so I guess that's something. I don't know. If there's anyone listening who has been a frequent flyer of United for the last 60 years and you have your plaque, send me a picture because I would love to see it, or some promotion materials. Anyway, the actual first airline to track its customers' mileage was Texas International Airlines, and it gave them rewards based on those miles that flew. Their members flew, and this was in 1979. Texas International eventually became part of Continental Airlines, which eventually merged with United. In 1980, Western Airlines created what they called a travel bank, and this later became part of Delta's frequent flyer program when those two companies merged in 1987. But then there was, according to Travel Insider, really most people go back. I think American gets credit. It generally gets credit for its Advantage program as kind of the first modern frequent flyer program. United, they have one called Mileage Plus. That came a little bit later in the 80s, and then several others. They kind of all cropped up in the early 80s, pretty close to each other. These days, frequent flyer airline miles, it's kind of something people, certain types of people anyway, they tend to kind of brag about or obsess over. And I get it. It's understandable. Flying is expensive. And so when you fly for free, that feels good. It's pretty great, flying to wherever for free, especially if it's someplace fun. If you're flying to Cancun for free, that's cool. If you're flying to, I don't know, Salt Lake City, no offense, Greg, but if you're flying to Salt Lake City and it's not ski season, I don't know. Sure. Okay. Whatever. Anyway, and you can use, these miles for all kinds of things, mostly travel stuff, right? You can use them on hotels, rental cars, stuff like that. So pretty useful, right? And so if you can pile them up, then yeah, it's fun to use them. And personally speaking, I think I mentioned it, I'm a Southwest Rapid Reward member, and I don't obsess really, but they put your points like right in the app, as I'm sure some of you are aware. And so I'm aware of the number of points I have, but I don't really think about it too much. And it's nice when we can use them, but whatever. Anyway, most of you know all this. Some of you probably fly a lot and are one of these people who kind of like hoarding the points, and like using them. So more power to you. And since lots of people like these programs, these frequent flyer programs have gotten really big. So for example, American, which we mentioned, American reportedly generates about $6.5 billion. Well, it did generate $6.5 billion from its Advantage program in just 2023. So that's, a lot of money. An article that I found in the Australian Financial Review cited a study from On Point Loyalty. That's a consulting firm that focuses on airline loyalty. Yes, that's a thing. They reported that the big three U.S. airlines, that's United, American, and Delta, their loyalty programs were worth a combined $73.8 billion in 2023. So that's extremely valuable. And that's almost more valuable than the airlines themselves, which is kind of funny to think about. And you might be wondering, it's like, well, how do they make money from these? Well, one of the easiest ways that they make money from them is they sell miles to credit card partners at huge margins, right? And I wasn't able to find any exact data around this, but they, the airlines themselves kind of, they pay very little. They pay like half a cent per mile to produce them, apparently. And then they can turn around and sell them for like 2 to 3 cents each. And that's like just massive, massive margins, right? And they're just, I think what's the hilarious thing is that these aren't tangible. They're just made up. They're just digital assets that are created out of thin air. And that's pretty hilarious to me. I don't know. Anyway, however, it's not all upside, right? If you will indulge a little bit of accounting, an accounting nerd detour, we'll call it, but they're not just marketing programs, right? And they aren't just like, these digital assets that they can just sell. they're also liabilities, right? So, the way revenue recognition works is that each one of these points represents a promise to deliver on some future service, right? And so in the airline's case, they have all these unredeemed points out there, and it's deferred revenue because if people cash in, they have to give them, they said they would give them the free flights or whatever. So that's a liability, right? That's something that they owe. And if a fraudster, for example, manages to steal those points, that doesn't get rid of the liability. The liability still exists, and they still have to make good on it. If that fraudster like books a flight with those points, they'll probably honor it, but they actually did so under false pretenses. So the customer whose miles they actually were is probably going to try to get them back. So in some ways, there's kind of this risk that they could really be, bleed out a lot of money. Like if they had these, like if there was a big, hack of some kind and lots of miles disappeared, would they be able to cancel them, but still honor, and all those customers are going to want their miles back. So are they going to honor all that, but then somehow cancel all the miles that got stolen? I don't know. I mean, that could get real messy real fast. Speaking of the unredeemed miles, how much is out there is kind of unclear, but that same Financial Review article cited a McKinsey estimate that claimed there were 30 trillion unredeemed air miles in passenger accounts. 30 trillion. That is almost enough for every airline passenger in the world to take a free one-way flight. So that's a lot of unredeemed miles. And like I said, if you're a savvy kind of opportunistic fraudster, there's a lot to like here, I think. There's this giant pile of valuable assets just sitting around kind of gathering digital dust. Not to mention, well, we are mentioning now that the security around these assets is kind of not good, especially when you compare it to, the measures that are taken to protect our old-fashioned assets like money in the bank or real estate or investments, business interests, stuff like that. The security around that stuff is usually quite good in some cases, not so good in other cases, but it's pretty robust when it comes to assets. People want to protect their assets as best they can. But, for rewards miles, not so much. So why try stealing money? If you're a fraudster, why would you steal money when you can steal airline miles and then use them or cash them in or use them some way? And then the airlines have got to clean up the mess, especially since when you think about the airlines, and if, in an ideal world, if they're thinking about security, hopefully they're thinking about the security of the giant flying aluminum tubes filled with human beings inside. I mean, I hope that's what they're thinking about. I mean, recent events have kind of indicated that maybe they don't think about that stuff so much, but that's not the point. The point is that these miles programs are a little vulnerable, and there are many, many stories of frequent flyers being ripped off, being defrauded of their valuable, cherished miles. And so we'll just mention a few of those. First, in this July 2025, local Seattle news stations reported that multiple Alaska Airlines customers had their accounts hacked. In some cases, their flights had been canceled and the points stolen. In other cases, the points were simply drained out of the accounts. And in just one case, an Alaska Airlines customer lost 150,000 miles, worth approximately $1,900. In another case I found on the Alaska Airlines subreddits, a user reported that they had lost over 200,000 miles. The hacker had used their points to book hotels in Abu Dhabi. Multiple reports stated that Alaska Airlines did not require multi-factor or two-factor authentication when users logged into their accounts. So that's certainly not good. This is a recent story, so updates may still be trickling in, but if you're an Alaska Airlines person, maybe check your balance. Make sure everything's good. Another example I found was a writer for The Points Guy. That's a very popular blog that obsesses over all things rewards. That writer, Gabrielle Bernardini, shared the story of her Southwest Rapid Rewards account being hacked in December 2024. She writes that she found out that her account was compromised when she received an email confirming her stay at a Hampton Inn and Suites in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Except she hadn't made a reservation for the Hampton Inn and Suites in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Whoever did make that reservation had used 17,100 of her points, and that's worth about $240. Through a lot of persistence on the phone, Gabrielle writes that she did end up getting her points back. However, she also noted that in Southwest's terms and conditions for their Rapid Rewards program, they state that they are, quote, not responsible for unauthorized access to a member's account and will not replace stolen points or rewards. But in her case, probably because she was a journalist, but they said that they only reinstated the points as a, quote, gesture of goodwill and one-time exception. And just out of curiosity, I decided to dig up the Rapid Rewards terms and conditions, and it still says, and I'm quoting here, Southwest is not responsible for unauthorized access to a member's account and will not replace stolen points. So there you have it. That is still the policy. Also, Gabrielle writes, and I confirmed with my own account, that Southwest Rapid Rewards does not have two-factor or multi-factor authentication included when people log in. She also noted in the article that American and Frontier, and we just mentioned Alaska, they don't have two-factor or multi-factor authentication. So yeah, be careful with that stuff. Another case, again, another Points Guy writer. This writer's name is Clint Henderson. He wrote about his experience of having his American Airlines Advantage account hacked. And in that case, someone had gained access to his account and used hundreds of thousands of Advantage miles for several car rentals. Okay. And Clint's account is a little more harrowing. You can read all about it. It's in the show notes. But he spent a lot of time calling around. He called the car rental companies. He called American Airlines. Got connected to, the Advantage teams. There was hotels and the flights. But it gets hellishly more complicated. He talks about how, American canceled his Advantage number, gave him a new one. Okay, so that's maybe not surprising. But he had to use a different email address in order to do that. That's kind of strange, but he writes that that's their policy and that's what they require people to do. So that's a hoop that you have to jump through. I don't think anyone needs more email addresses or wants one, to be honest. He also talked about when the Advantage fraud team got in contact, they informed him that he had to file a police report. Yes, an actual police report. And they would not accept an email. It had to be either a PDF or a screenshot, which seems tedious and weird, but okay. So he had to physically go into a police precinct in New York City because at the time he wrote the article, the NYPD's online filing was disabled. So he filled out a police report and then oddly was told that he wasn't allowed to have a copy of it, which is kind of crazy. Fortunately, the next day he writes that a detective got back to him to follow up and said that he could have a copy of it, which was then provided, which he then forwarded to American Airlines so they could refund his miles. And for what it's worth, I checked NYPD's website and you can file police reports online. So thankfully that's up and running again. Anyway, oddly, little end cap or little capstone to this story. He was later contacted by Advantage Hotel. Clint, the writer, was contacted by Advantage Hotels. So that was the organization that the fraudster used to book the rental cars. And Advantage Hotels informed Clint that the rental car company that they were trying to, that their partner that they were trying to work with to get the miles refunded, they refused to do that. And that is also kind of weird. In the article, the representative that he was working with said that they provided all the information that was requested. And, in terms of they, as Clint is jumping through hoops trying to get his miles back, Advantage Hotels had to jump through hoops with the car rental company to see if they would refund them. And it sounds like they did all that, but then they said, nope, we're not going to refund it. Anyway, we're going to stick to the policy, which whatever it is, they're not responsible. And so that was strange too. But fortunately, as I mentioned, Clint got his miles back directly from American. But, it is a little shocking that sometimes a business will not just summarily make good when you're a victim of fraud. That's a good thing to know. Story number 2, Big Buck Store. You've probably heard of Sam Walton. He's the legendary business magnate who founded Walmart in 1962, which, maybe you've heard, has become a behemoth, a retail behemoth. Fun fact about Walmart, it is the largest employer in 21 states. Yeah. So, yeah. They're doing fine. They're doing fine. Anyway, 21 years after Sam Walton started Walmart, he started Sam's Wholesale Club in Midwest City, Oklahoma. And this was on April 7th, 1983. Midwest City, which I did not know about. Midwest City is a suburb of Oklahoma City, if you're not familiar. I was not, so now we're all up to speed on that suburb of Oklahoma City. Anyway, believe it or not, the first Sam's Club opened before the first official Costco opened, which was September 15th, 1983. I went down a bit of a, wholesale membership store rabbit hole. Anyway, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but people love these warehouse club memberships. They love them. My wife loves them. I have a good friend who loves Costco. Mostly they love Costco, but this is not about Costco. This is about Sam's Club. And I still get the sense that many people love buying a lot of stuff at big discounts, and Sam's Club definitely allows you to do that. So I don't know if the brand love for Sam's is quite to the level as it is for Costco, but it still does all those Costco things, and I'm sure people really like that. Anyway, if you've never set foot in a Sam's Club before and don't have any idea what I'm talking about, then all you have to do is imagine the low prices of a Walmart in a store with all the charm of a shipping container. Anything you want to buy, from box fans to pool noodles to barrels of mayonnaise, just sitting on pallets in a giant warehouse. And those pallets are stacked on metal racks that are 2 to 3 stories high, aisle after extra wide, agonizing aisle. Shopping carts, you get these shopping carts that are basically the size of Mini Coopers. Those are provided so that you can fill the back of your F-150 or your Suburban easily with, whatever it is that you want. And then you can drive over to their gas station, which has its own zip code, and you can fill it with 30 gallons of unleaded gasoline that is also at a very, just a much better price than your average Exxon station. Okay. So you get all this and much, much more for, $50 or $110 a year. That's the cost of the basic and plus memberships for Sam's Club. And in either case, the amount that you save on, a 98-inch screen TV, that will pay for your membership. Those savings, that savings on that giant ass TV will pay your annual membership well into your kids being in college. So that's why people do this. Okay. And as if, this discount paradise wasn't enough, Sam's Club opts all of its Plus members into what's known as Sam's Cash. Now, these are cashback rewards that these Plus members can earn, 2% of every purchase that they make at Sam's Club. And they can also use them by using a Sam's Club MasterCard credit card. There are bonus and special offers, too, that allow members to earn points. And those points accumulate and can be used to make purchases at Sam's Club online or in the Sam's Club app or in the Sam's Club store. And you can renew your membership with them, or you can even cash them out, okay? And this makes Sam's Cash valuable, very valuable, right? The number of Sam's Club memberships isn't publicly available, but estimates I found put it in the range of about 69 million. That's a lot. And so if even 1/3 of those were Plus members, we're talking 23 million people who just earn these points. And Sam's Club generated more than $86 billion in revenue for its 2024 fiscal year. So there's got to be a lot of Sam's Cash floating around out there, right? So it will come as no surprise that a enterprising fraudster might go after those. This past May, the Sheriff's Office of Sacramento County, California, arrested a 38-year-old man, Inam Rasul. Hope I'm saying that right. Inam Rasul, after a months-long investigation. The Folsom, California, Folsom Times reported that the story began in February when Rasul, quote, attempted to leave a Sacramento County Sam's Club with more than $1,000 in unpaid merchandise. I wonder how was, man, $1,000 of unpaid merchandise. Anyone who shops at these places know that you can't, I mean, like where, how, like, do you have 2 carts? Like, what was he doing? Or do you just get like, 2 sets of tires? I don't know. Like, but still, how are you going to, how would you try to sneak out with that? Anyway, I don't know. He had mixed these in with legitimate purchases, and the receipt checker, which these stores have, a receipt checker discovered the unscanned stuff, but Rasul, he was just allowed to pay for them. Oh, honest mistake, yada, 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 whatever. I'm sure that's how it went or something like that. And he just had to pay for them. But the article goes on, quote, store personnel began monitoring his return visits. That internal review revealed a broader scheme in which Rasul used other customers' Sam's Club accounts and accumulated reward balances to make unauthorized purchases. Detectives say Rasul fraudulently obtained merchandise using those stolen rewards points and then sold the items through an online marketplace. Very, very enterprising. And a little busybody of fraud right there. Anyway, when a search warrant was executed on his house, authorities found, quote, hundreds of items valued at more than $25,000, including electronics, over-the-counter medications, pet food, hygiene products, nutritional supplements, and snack foods. Investigators also located shipping supplies, a computer, and a label printer believed to be used for online sales. So, there you go. Somebody being awfully clever or not very clever using the Sam's Club points rewards. Story 3, a full tank of fraud. I do not know if you've noticed this or not, but the price of gas is something that people get worked up about. I think I first noticed this when Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990. If you remember this, it caused a brief spike in oil prices and therefore gas prices at the time. And it was kind of short-lived. I looked into it a little bit. That was another rabbit hole I went down, was the original Gulf War. But in that case, things kind of came back down to earth after an initial spike. But anyway, I also remember in college, I was in college in the late 90s, and gas prices actually dropped quite a bit. They actually kind of got quite low in the late 90s. But then things kind of exploded around, between 2000 and 2003. I don't know if Y2K had anything to do with it, but, that was a thing. The September 11th attacks, of course, and the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan that came after that. And then, of course, the Iraq War. Personally, I remember on the morning of September 11th, 2001, it was my senior year of college. I was in Kearney, Nebraska. I had driven to campus for class. It was a Tuesday, as I'm sure many of you remember. And I heard the news on the radio, and didn't make any sense at the time, but I was listening to the radio and I was hearing the news being reported. And I got to class, and my professor had the news on his projector screen, and I saw the North Tower collapse, and that was awful, of course. And finally, the last time I remember people freaking out about gas was in the summer of 2022, so relatively recent, when inflation was getting out of hand. And, we weren't totally clear of the pandemic at the time, and, people were worked up about a lot of things. Particularly, they were worked up about the price of things, and gas prices was one of those things primarily that people were worked up about. And because the price of gasoline has long been this thing that people obsess over, or this kind of aggravating necessity, many people have found ways or tried to find ways to save money when they buy it, and it has become kind of their raison d'etre, if you like. So yeah, gas prices. Here we are. So in March 2025, the CBS Pittsburgh affiliate reported that at least 19 people in Peters Township, Pennsylvania, that's a suburb of Pittsburgh, were victimized when someone hacked their Giant Eagle Fuel Perks accounts. And they used those points, of course, to buy gas. One customer said, quote, "I could never imagine someone hacking a Giant Eagle Perks card. I mean, really, but this day and age, anything is possible." Yes. Yes, it is, I guess. Peters Township police first learned of this fraudulent activity when a woman reported that her card was fraudulently used to redeem about 1,500 points, worth about $30. Video of the gas station showed a 18-year-old suspect, Paul Kostanich, putting his phone in front of the barcode scanner at a gas station to activate the points. Giant Eagle's loss prevention team traced his card back to numerous other fraudulent transactions, saying that he had been returning, quote, almost daily and using multiple different individuals' Giant Eagle Advantage cards to fraudulently purchase fuel. Now, I don't know how much gas the average 18-year-old needs in this day and age, but the fact that he was going back every day is kind of weird, but that's what he was doing. And if I go back to this one customer that was interviewed, quote, "To all these youngsters who want to take advantage of the system, just stop it, man. Go get a job. Be a citizen in this community." And sure. I mean, in this case, it was a youngster, but I don't know if all the people taking advantage of the system, I don't know if the majority of them are youngsters. Anyway, I think most of the people taking advantage of the system do have jobs and are citizens in their community. Well, whatever. I don't want to dwell too much on it. I thought it was just a funny quote. Anyway, when he was questioned by police, Kostanich admitted to hacking about 20 accounts. He was looking at 58 charges, including identity theft, accessing a device issued to another who did not authorize use, and receiving stolen property. Okay, so what did we learn? I think it's fair to say that very few of us think about the reward points we accumulate, whether it's airline miles or Starbucks stars or fuel points, whatever. I don't think most of us think about those points as assets. At least certainly not in the way that we think about the money in our bank accounts or the balance in our retirement. We don't think about them in the same spirit of those, right? But the rewards, they do have value. In some cases, they have a lot of value. And if they are lost, that can be pretty devastating. Okay, not devastating like your house burning down, devastating. But, it's a pretty big drag if your rewards points got stolen. Yeah, not fun, not good. And as we've heard, getting them back, not easy. And that's the other thing. I think lots of these rewards programs do not have robust security around them. Why is that? Well, unlike assets such as money in bank accounts, these reward programs, the points that we get, they're created out of thin air. They aren't legal tender. they're if we're being real about it, if we're being honest, they're just a marketing gimmick developed by corporations that they hope will get us to spend more money with them. And it just so happens that they're very, very good at doing that. And so the security around these things, it's not really their highest priority because it's the customer satisfaction and repeat business that is the priority. Those are the primary goals of these reward points programs. For a bank, if a bank can't keep your money safe, then you're not going to bank at that bank, right? You're just not. So security is extremely important. But if you're accumulating American Airlines Advantage points, they just want you to fly more and fly more and fly more and fly more, right? They're not necessarily concerned about the security of those miles that you get. And, the actual number of victims of this type of fraud are pretty small. The size of rewards program fraud is only like $1 billion to $3 billion. But these programs are virtually everywhere. Virtually every retail business has them. Virtually every travel and hospitality business has them. And so, they're so widespread at this point that there's just a lot of vulnerability, right? Lots of risk. So what can you do to protect yourself and your highly curated batch of weird digital assets? Number one, change your password. Now I know it's okay to admit it, but many of you are using the same password for many different accounts. And, for a rewards program, that it has to be one of those, right? You're not saving your best password for, your Kroger fuel points, I'm sure. And we all do it. It's fine. You'd have to be a cerebral freak to generate a different password for virtually every account you have, right? It's not realistic. But in any case, maybe around your rewards points, that's maybe some vulnerable ones. So yeah, maybe do that. Anyway, also use two-factor or multi-factor authentication. This is old hat by now, but geez, just turn it on. Is it tedious? Yes. Does it save your bacon like 99.9% of the time? Also, yes. Okay. 3, consider a password manager. These are very useful. They are not foolproof. All the big ones that you've heard of have been hacked. But the usefulness of them, being able to manage dozens of accounts and being able to assign good passwords to them vastly outweighs the risks associated with, those big password managers being hacked. Fair. All right. And also keep your eye on your accounts. That's a good thing to do. It's not like you're checking your bank balance every day, but, check them out once in a while. Just make sure nothing weird is going on. And I don't know, this is a shameless plug, but tell your friends about this podcast. Just awareness of these things is important. So yeah, just talking about it with people that this is a thing that happens, that you heard about and you listen to, and then, oh, you should listen to this. Yeah. Shameless plug. Yes. Helpful. Arguably so. Okay. All right. That's it for this episode. And remember that violations of your privacy are taken very seriously, and security is everyone's top priority. But really what it comes down to are the terms and conditions, and the terms and conditions of corporate partners who may choose to enforce their policies despite all the evidence that you were ripped off. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for stories, drop me a line at ohmyfraud@earmarkcpe.com or hit me up on LinkedIn. Oh My Fraud is created, written, produced, and hosted by me, Caleb Newquist. Zach Frank, who had a little guest appearance today. He's my co-producer, audio engineer, music supervisor. Laura Hobbs designed our logo. Rate, review, and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen on Earmark, get some CPE there. Join us next time for more avarice, swindlers, and scams from stories that will make you say, oh my fraud.